Hi, my name's Laura from Porth Jewellery, and it's really lovely to be part of this festival that's going on, and I can't wait to see all the other videos. What we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how you can use the bags of sea glass you might have lying around, or the jars or whatever you collect it in to make some jewellery. Normally my jewellery is set in silver, and we call this a bezel setting. So it has silver on the back and around the sides, and then it is pushed over the edges to set the silver. I do courses on this, but it's a whole day. So for the sake of the festival, we're going to be doing a simpler and quicker one, and hopefully you will have all the equipment that you need at home already. So obviously the first thing we're going to need is some sea glass. There's lots of different places that you can get sea glass. If you go to sandy beaches, you're less likely to find it unless it's near a town. You need somewhere where the sea glass or glass has been thrown into the sea and then it can be tumbled. You'll get sharper bits where it hasn't been in the sea so long, and this piece has got lovely rounded edges to it and it's a nice shape. You will need something to drill onto, like a block. This is my soldering block. It's an asbestos substitute. You could just use a wooden block, a chopping board, a bench peg, anything that's going to stop your desk getting ruined. You're going to need some safety equipment. So I've got goggles, I've got my apron on to make sure that nothing gets tangled, tie my hair up. I don't want anything that can get caught in a drill. Then you're also going to need a pot of water to cool your sea glass as you're drilling it. You're going to need some pliers. You could get away without using these if you have really small, strong fingers. I have a set of pliers that are rounded on both sides to make jump rings. You could use other things. You could use a thin pen. You could use the handles of other things like files or kitchen equipment. There's normally plenty of things you can find within your house that could work. Then you're going to need a diamond coated drill bit. So these are much stronger than your normal drill bit, and they will help you go through the sea glass. You can get these online. You just do a simple search and they will come up. The wire that I'm going to use is 0.8 millimeters. It's strong enough to make jump rings. You could use 1mm wire if you wanted to make stronger jump rings, which means your drill bit needs to be the size accordingly. So I've got a 0.8mm drill bit here. I find when I've gone through, sometimes I need to make it a little bit bigger so that the 0.8 wire can still go through and move nicely. And then you're going to need a drill for your drill bit. So I've got a Dremel here. They're quite good because you can change the speed setting. You do need to buy the chuck piece though, it doesn't come with it, it just comes with the Dremel fittings. So I've had to buy that in addition. And so what we're going to do is we're going to drill through the sea glass. I'm going to show you how to make a jump ring, and then you can attach that to a chain you already have, or you can go out and buy yourself a nice new one. So I'm ready to drill my sea glass, so safety goggles on. I'm going to attach the drill bit into the drill. It is quite easy to snap these if you're pressing too hard, so sometimes it's useful to buy several in case you get halfway through something and you break it and then you have to order a new one. So I'll move you down. With your sea glass and your drill, you don't want to be forcing the drill down because you're likely to snap the drill bit or your sea glass is likely to shatter. If you drill your hole too close to the edge, you've got more chance of breaking your sea glass. So what I normally do is I get a pencil and I just mark where I want to be. So I'm not too close to the edge, but a jump ring going through there will look okay. Now, with any rotating drill bit, it's going to get hot, it's going to cause some problems if you're holding things. Also, as that sea glass gets hot, it's more likely to shatter. So what we're going to do is we're going to be dunking our sea glass in the water to help cool it down and lubricate it whilst we're pushing with the diamond drill bit. So I need to try and make sure that I'm going directly down. I'm not coming in at an angle, and I don't want to keep pushing too hard in case I break something. So I'm just going to gently come in, make sure I keep it wet, and go from there. So, drum along. Keep it cool. I've now got as far as making a little divot in the top so it's easy to come back to where I'm drilling. And I'm through. So what I do now, I've gone through from the front to the back, so I'm going to turn it over and just go through from the other side. Smooth it off. Now, like I said earlier, I'm just going to go and just enlarge that slightly. So if you have nicely frosted sea glass, when you get it wet, it kind of goes clear and shiny again. If you like that look and you want to keep that, you can put a little bit of coconut oil on your fingers, like a tiny bit, rub it in and then rub it all over your sea glass and it will keep that. If I just let this dry again, it will have that nice frosted effect. I quite like that. So I now have a hole that goes through my sea glass and I'm ready for the next step. We're now going to make the jump ring that can go through the hole in our sea glass. So the first thing you need to do is just check that your silver goes through the sea glass okay. And we're going to make a jump ring. So if you've got two pliers where they're both round, you can very simply hold them in your pliers and twist. You get a lovely circle. If you don't have those and you're using something else, you can hold it with your thumb and then you are just twisting around. You might need to play with what is actually the right size for the jump ring that you're going to need. So you need to make sure, there's the hole, that your jump ring is big enough to reach from the hole above and space to get a chain through. So I've got a larger shape here. I'm just going to cut it. I've just got some simple pliers here just for cutting, so I'm just going to clip through there. Now you might find, this is where I use the 2 pairs of pliers to hold silver for me because I find it really fiddly otherwise. So I hold my jump ring with one and I use the other to open my jump ring. I'm not opening my jump ring that way because if I keep doing it I'm going to snap the silver. And then you can feed your sea glass in. Now I do find if you've got thicker sea glass like this one, this is quite chunky, it doesn't want to go through a rounded circle because obviously you've drilled that line straight. So what I do, I just close that back up again. Where they meet at the top here, I'm going to pinch them so they have a flat surface. That way they will go, it will look round, but where it goes through the glass it's a straight line and they can meet in the glass and we won't see that join. If we had soldering equipment, we still wouldn't be able to solder this close to the sea glass because if we added the heat onto here our sea glass might shatter. So I've just made a flat top where they meet, and then it's a matter of feeding one side on, holding it, and then using the pliers to push the other side in. When they're both in, I use my pliers to just give that jump ring a squeeze where they go through, so I know that both pieces are touching inside. If your jump ring has become a little bit out of shape, you can just manipulate it with the pliers. That's quite a firm, strong hold. I've got the jump ring, I've got the silver, and I'm pulling apart and they're not coming apart. It's always good practice on a necklace to have something that isn't quite soldered. So if you get stuck in something and there's a danger, at some point it is going to break in a way that can be fixed for safety. So the other day, this one, I got it caught in something, and where the join is here, the one in between the link and here isn't actually soldered. It's just pushed together tightly, so that when I got caught, instead of it cutting into my skin and hurting me, the chain just pulled apart and everything was okay. So that can be your point here. If for some reason it gets caught in something or something moving, you know that you're safe. So now I can quite simply just feed that onto the chain. If you don't have chain at home, you can buy it quite cheaply and easily online. Normally the postage ends up as more than the cost of the chain. So I like really fine chain, but obviously there are just hundreds of different designs that you can get. So feed my chain in, and I have one sea glass necklace. I'm now going to show you another style of sea glass necklace you can make with the same equipment. You will just also need a hammer. This is where pliers are going to be more useful to you as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a stack of sea glass that hangs on a straight piece of metal that comes through it. These also make really lovely earrings, so if you want to make, I'll show you how to make earring hooks later, and we'll make some straight ones with stacks of sea glass within them. So the first thing you need to do is you need to go through your stash. I've picked out all the lighter colours, all the whites from one beach, so that it will match my necklace. And this time I kind of want smaller pieces and maybe a bit rounder. I'm going to pick out those kind of shapes. It also looks quite nice if you stack different colours together like this, and if you start with bigger pieces at the bottom and get a bit smaller. So I'm looking for rounded pieces, but also pieces that are different sizes. So I've got two slightly smaller ones now. That one's got a slight bit of colour to it, it's really pretty. Two slightly bigger ones and two slightly bigger again. It could be that you want to add another colour in between. So sometimes you have these slight, if you see slight ones with a bit more colour in them, they look white, and then when you put them next to white you realise actually they're slightly aqua. So I'm going to go with these 6. And I'm going to drill into each and every one, but this time I'm going to go through the centre of each one. So I have my 6 pieces, they all have a hole in the centre, and I have checked that my 0.8mm wire will go through them. So the next thing I need to do is decide on my ear hooks and how big and how long I want them to be. I am going to measure my wire. So I'm going to go with 5 centimetres of wire. I'm just going to mark it, cut it, and then cut another the same length. Pieces of wire. Now I'm going to need my hammer. I can smooth off those ends gently with a file, but I'm going to hammer one end, which is going to make it a little bit sharper again anyway. So good tip here. So I've just got a steel block. It's going to get a little bit of masking tape, and I'm going to just put a bit of tape here to hold them while I'm hammering. I want to get the ends at the same point. Hold that still. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hammer the end of the wire. When you hammer a straight piece of wire, it will flatten, and so it will come wider. As it comes wider, it means that the sea glass can't fall off the bottom any longer. So I'm just going to give it a bit of a whack. And the reason I've stuck them together is so that I can try and make sure that they're even. So as you can see, where I'm hitting it, the light is bouncing off differently, and you can see they're starting to splay out. Just going to go a little bit further. And then sometimes it's useful to turn them over and just do the other side as well. So now they should make sure that the sea glass doesn't fall off. So I'm just going to check. So I'm going to thread on my biggest piece and it's not going to come off. So I'm going to thread my biggest piece on that one. And then I'm going to go one smaller. This one is a thicker piece, so and then the smallest one on each. So what I'm looking at is the thickness of each piece of sea glass is different. So because my bottom one here was thinner, I've added a slightly thicker one. And this was a thicker bottom, so I've added the thinner second one. And then I've got one now that's white and one that's slightly turquoisey. So I'm going to put the white one on that one. This one has got a little bit of colour to it. So I've now got two little stacks of sea glass that I am going to make into earrings that will sit through here. So I don't need my hammer anymore. What you will probably need are, go back to a thin pen, something like that, so that we can shape the tops of the wire. At this point you may also want to just sand the ends of these because that's the bit that will go through your ear. So just get rid of any sharp bits. I just use a little bit of sandpaper, or you can use a burr. And then I've noticed my wires just a little bit wonky here. So I'm going to use some pliers and I'm just going to go along, sea glass in it, and just straighten it up a little bit. Better. That one just got a slight tilt to it. So we're now going to make the ear wire shape that will go through your ear. I try and make sure, I quite like it with the flat bit that you've hammered faces forwards. It gives a little bit of, bounces the light off a little bit. And so I'm going to use my thin pen and I'm going to hold my pen against the top of my earrings and use my thumb, and I'm going to roll my pen down so that I get two rolled bits for my earring. Now if you look where they're hanging, they've tilted slightly that way, so I can just hold them still and just gently ease each one back because I'd like them to sit straight. I don't want them to hang back. Okay. And then the last thing you need to do is, it helps if you just use some pliers to bend the end of your wire. This just helps with not losing them. If you want as well, you can also buy tiny little rubber or silicone nuts, and it's like a butterfly but it just stops them coming off. They're really tight rubber, so I normally twist it on so I don't ruin the earring, and it just helps to keep your earrings in place so you're not going to lose them. And then the last thing you want to do is, because obviously this wire is quite thin and quite flimsy, I find it's useful to either put it back on your block and hammer it with a mallet, because the more you work harden your silver, the more you use it, the more you bash it and bend it, the stronger it gets. Take the one. That one's a lot wider than the other one, so I'm just going to give it a little squeeze. And then the other way you can harden them is you can burnish them. So this is a burnisher. It is stainless steel. You could use a teaspoon of stainless steel. It will help to shine it up, and again it will just work harden your earring. So I'm pressing quite hard and I'm just giving it a good rub over with my burnisher, and again toughening it up and also bringing out a nice shine on my silver. That's one. Put my rubber nuts back on. And so now you have a lovely little pair of sea glass earrings. So you've made your own earring wires, you've learnt how to shape them, you've learnt how to draw sea glass, you've learnt how to stop things falling off the end by hammering them. You could also solder if you, heat if you've got heating equipment, you can just heat those up. I've noticed on this earring, that's the bottom bit that I wanted to face forward, has turned slightly, so I'm just going to use my pliers, give it a little turn, check the other one. So we now have a very simple pendant and some slightly more interesting earrings. Here we are, ready to be displayed. Our earrings are necklace, little care card, how to look after your pieces, and unique to my business, every piece comes with a little map of Cornwall and I'll mark on where the sea glass came from. Now these pieces I've demonstrated today I'm going to be giving to the festival as part of their auction giveaway, so one lucky person will get these. I hope it's been useful. I hope you found ways to do things with your sea glass. If you want to know more about the bezel settings, you can get in touch. I can make pieces with your own sea glass, or you can start your own sea glass journey.